Welcome to The Explainer. You know those moments in a clinical setting where you see something and think, there has to be a better way to do this, right? Well, guess what? There is. And today, we're going to break down exactly how you can turn one of those everyday frustrations into a real, powerful plan for improvement. So instead of kicking things off with a dry textbook definition, let's jump right into a real-world problem. I'm talking about something many of us have probably seen firsthand. Yeah, that one. Why does the first surgery of the day so often start late? It's a classic, right? You're standing around, waiting. It just seems like a simple inefficiency. But what's really going on behind the scenes? What are the actual consequences of what feels like a minor delay? Well, it turns out these delays are way more than just an inconvenience. I mean, think about it from the patient's perspective. That waiting, it just ramps up their anxiety. And for the hospital, it creates this whole cascade of problems. Longer stays, and maybe most importantly, a massive waste of super expensive resources like theater time and staff. So, what do we do about it? How do we fix it? This is where we stop just complaining about the problem and start actually solving it. And the tool for the job is something called a clinical audit. It's the official, structured way to tackle these exact kinds of issues in healthcare. Okay, that definition sounds a little formal, I know, but let's break it down. All it really means is we're comparing what we're actually doing on the ground with what we should be doing, based on the best evidence. And once you spot that gap between the two, that's when you can build a real plan to close it. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty and actually build one of these proposals. The best way to think about it is like a blueprint, right? It's your plan for change, laying out exactly what you're going to do and, crucially, why you're doing it. Every good proposal really boils down to three core parts. You've got the why, the how, and the what's next. It's a logical flow that takes you from, hey, here's a problem, to here's how we'll investigate it, and finally, here's what we're going to do about it. So step one, the rationale. This is your why. You kick things off with a super clear statement of the problem. Then you give your overall aim, like we want to evaluate efficiency. But here's the key. You have to get specific with measurable objectives. Things like, we will determine the average delay time, and we will identify the main causes for those delays. No vague ideas here. Okay, once your why is sorted, we move on to what's probably the most critical part, your method. This is all about the how. It's the real nuts and bolts of your whole investigation. Now, you can't measure something without a ruler, right? For any audit, you need a benchmark, a standard that you're measuring against, and it has to be evidence-based. So, for our example, a standard might be something like the time from patient arrival to the first incision shouldn't be more than 15 minutes. This gives you a crystal clear target. Are we hitting it or are we missing it? Simple as that. And to see if you're meeting that standard, you got to collect data. But not just any data. It has to be specific and objective. We're talking about things like exact timestamps. When did the patient arrive? When did the incision happen? And this part is absolutely critical. You have to write down the reason for any delay. Was it waiting for the anesthetist? Missing paperwork? This is how you turn that vague feeling of things are slow into cold, hard evidence. And check this out. This is what it actually looks like in practice. It's not some complicated, abstract research project. You're literally using a simple data sheet, just like this one, to capture all that info in real time for every single patient. This is what makes sure your data is consistent, reliable, and super useful. Okay, so you've collected all your data. Now what? The next step is to take all those numbers and turn them into a story, a clear story that points you directly to an action plan. This is a perfect example of what you might find. A simple chart like this can be a total game changer. It instantly shows you the biggest bottlenecks in the system. See? In this hypothetical case, it's not 100 different little things. It's really just 2 or 3 main culprits that are causing the bulk of the delays. And this is the whole point, really. Your findings have to lead to real, concrete recommendations. You can't just say, things are slow. If your data shows the problem is paperwork, then your recommendation is a new checklist. If it's team communication, maybe you suggest a quick daily huddle. The solutions have to be a direct answer to the problems you uncovered. But wait, we're not done yet. You don't just hand over a list of recommendations and walk away. A real clinical audit isn't a straight line with a finish line. It's a cycle. This timeline shows you the whole journey, right? From the proposal all the way to presenting your findings. But look at that very last step, re-audit. This is so important. After you've put your changes into practice, you have to go back in a few months and measure everything again. It's the only way to know if your solutions actually worked. This is what we mean by closing the loop. And that, right there, is the heart of it. You haven't just put a Band-Aid on one little problem. What you've actually done is create a whole system for continuous improvement, a system that can make a real, lasting difference for patient care. So, now it's your turn. Think about your own clinical environment. What's that one recurring issue, that small thing you see every single day that just seems inefficient? Now that you have this blueprint, what's one thing you could measure, analyze, and improve? What's the small change you could make that might just have the biggest impact?